And if you could just introduce yourself.
I play keyboards in Alice.
My name is Anna Maria, and I am the founder and vocalist in the band Vajra.
What was the initial start?
Yeah, so we all have pretty storied histories.
I was just bored during COVID. Did a little demo, put it out, and it was pretty well received by the community. And
always had a thing for horror punk and stuff.
Something that started with me and a laptop during quarantine, and just like, oh yeah, you know, all those times I said, if only I didn't have to work my job all the time, and now it's like I could have time to do that. Well, now this is that.
All right. And if you could just introduce yourself for the folks at home, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
I am Nate from Pretty with the Lights Out, the lead singer and lead guitarist of the band, which is really just me in the studio, but live I have hired guns that perform with me. So Pretty with the Lights Out is essentially just a solo project with hired members.
Well, that's really cool. So let's talk about that. How did that actually start? I know a little bit about the story because I've kind of been in similar circles for a little while now. But for the audience at home, you were a musician first, right? A long time ago, and you kind of walked away, and you're coming back now?
Yeah, I've been in bands since I was a teenager, young teenager. So did that for quite a while, and then stopped around 2003 or so. Was over it. Bands break up, it happens. And then somewhere around 2008, had a baby, and that really derailed things. Wasn't really planning on coming back. Like, I still play guitar every day because it's just my second nature for me. But as far as performing and recording, it wasn't on my radar. And then eventually, just kind of, I've been sitting on the Pretty with the Lights Out name for a real long time, and decided it was finally just time to do something with it. I had extra time as the kid got older.
For sure, for sure. So let's talk about that though. What's it like being a parent and a musician? I mean, I am a parent and a musician myself, but like I just, for the people at home, like, what is your experience with that?
I mean, just getting back into it now. My daughter's damn near 15, so she's been a teenager since she was 9 or so. So she's generally unimpressed with anything I do. But no, she's supportive, and she enjoys the music. You know, she wears Pretty with the Lights Out shirts and stuff around. She won't wear them to school, but
Well, hey, at least she wears them. That's really cool, you know.
Yeah.
Where did the name come from? I know the story myself, but like, I think it's really cool, like the where you guys kind of pulled that name from.
I kind of pulled it from Nirvana. Smells Like Teen Spirit was obviously one of the big ones. There was a Kill Whitney Dead song. Kill Whitney Dead was they were a hardcore band from North Carolina. They did a lot of like movie samples, a lot of horror movie samples actually within their music, but it's very, very, very heavy stuff. They had a Pretty with the Lights Off song, as I recall, where that entered my brain, and then it kind of just twisted it around. It's like, I kind of like this for like a jack-o'-lantern kind of concept, and that I've been sitting on it since probably 2008 or so was when I about came up with the name. Registered the domain, did everything for it, sat on the domain name for a really long time, would not do anything with it, and eventually let it expire. And then finally, when I came back to it, it's like, shit, I hope that name's still around. And yeah, it was. So I guess nobody was stupid enough to come up with it again.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, as a musician, you can go and like, I've got this great idea for a name, and then you do a Google search and you're like, damn it. Like, there's like 30 bands already got it.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. Song names too are the same way. Yeah, it's really rough to come up with something that is unique, where if somebody types it in, you're the first result. So I try to do that. I did it with the band name, and then song names too, like song titles. I try to really make sure that if somebody types it in, it's not finding another song name of that title or whatever else. Just try to make it as unique as possible. So
for sure.
Which makes them really long and kind of not great to dictate to Siri or whatever, but It works out.
For yeah, yeah. So with the modern like history of the project though, like how did that start? I know you said, you started coming back and you've kind of been doing it for a while or whatever, but how did it, because this seems like it kind of snowballed on you and like you're just kind of
Yes.
going with it.
Yeah, 100%. It snowballed. I lived in Denver for most of my life. I work in the tattoo industry and travel around the country working with a lot of different tattoo artists. And through that process, I met my best friend, Adam Stoner, who is a musician, phenomenal tattooer, now podcaster. And the running joke for years was move to Indiana, come be my guitarist. Like, yeah, yeah. It's like Indiana sounds dumb. So eventually we looked at it. It's like, oh, you know what? Indiana's not bad. Like it's pretty cool that we came out to visit during Halloween. Very like in Franklin, Indiana, which is roughly the town we live in. Very just kind of old school Halloween movie vibes. Like it's a lot of fun. So it's like, oh, we could really kind of vibe here. So moved out here. Eventually, did become his guitarist for his band, who he had fired. And it was he and I came like, well, he was tired of drama with his band, that was most of why I didn't want to be in a band anymore. So he had fired his band. He's like, just come be a guitarist. You'll just be like a hired gun. He goes, you'll be my John Five to my Rob Zombie. It's like, okay, cool. That sounds fine. And it was working out really well on doing that structure. So I was like, oh, you know what? Okay, hang on. I could do essentially the same thing, where there's no, you write what you want to write, you record what you want to record, and nobody's there. Oh, well, I like this riff better. Or, no, I like this one better. It's just, it's my music, and you then find people that want to play that music the way you wrote it. And there's no question about like, well, what if I do it this way? No, that's not the way the song goes. You do it this way because that's how the song is. So, yeah, so I play guitar for him. And then pretty just kind of, we decided to start recording ourselves once he had kind of lost a little bit of touch with his producer. It's like, well, all right, hang on, we can figure this out. We can figure out what to do. So we started recording his stuff, and that's where it's like, oh, okay, I can do this. Funny enough, I did not want to sing. It was never intended for me to be the singer. I wanted to find a female singer actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I started writing the music as kind of like, I really wanted like a Jess O'Lantern kind of vibe actually, and I had hit her up, and she's like, I'm too busy, I can't do it. It's like, okay, no worries. And none of my friends around town were interested in doing it, so it became if you want something done, you just do it yourself, and
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
that's what happened. So yeah, it definitely did just kind of snowball to whatever this is now.
I'm trying to like imagine these songs with like a female singer, and I imagine they could work, but like the voice is just so good. It fits with the music. You have a unique singing style that I would say is in the, I know you've heard this before, in that Wednesday 13
Yeah,
kind of Megadeth kind of style voice, although I'm gonna say Wednesday 13 because I think Wednesday's better than, anyways, that's
yeah.
just my opinion.
Well. So what's funny about it is I'm not a singer. Well, apparently I am, but I never claim to be. I don't claim to be any good at what I do on singing. I'm definitely a better guitarist than I am a singer. So Jack O' Lantern Social Club was the first song that got recorded as me. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had written the lyrics and I kind of had it in my head, but I was still very tentative to like step up to the microphone and do anything. So Adam came over to be the kind of the record button pusher for that, which I had done for him. Um, and I stepped up to the mic. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do some beautiful Michael Graves esque shit right now, and that's what happened. It's like, oh, okay, well, apparently that's what I sound like. So just went with it, and there we are.
Well, I personally think it's cool. I like the way you sing, and I think fundamentally it's like a character. I wouldn't know who it would be, because again, you haven't said that you have a stage name or anything like that. It's just you up there. But like when I hear your songs, I'm immediately put into like a Halloween movie. Not like a horror movie necessarily, but like, you know, those movies you watched as a kid and a teenager that weren't the horror movies that you saw on TV in Halloween? That
Yeah.
kind of
Oh yeah,
vibe
for
is what I
sure.
get. Especially because, you know, you've done a couple of songs now that were more like in that kind of realm. Like you did what's it, the Down to Goblin Town. You did that
Yeah.
one, and then you did the song, I believe it was based on a Nickelodeon show, if I remember correctly. Is it Nickelodeon?
Zeke, Zeke the plumber, right there.
Yeah.
There he is. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Nickelodeon.
remember like watching those, you know, and listening to that stuff growing up as a kid, and you know, thinking about like, you know, that kind of spooky vibe and like leaning into it and things like that. But the way you sing and the way you carry, you know, yourself in your performance always kind of reminded me of that, of like in a cool way, of like a modern crypt keeper from, you know, Tales from the
Oh,
Crypt or something like
yeah.
that.
That's kind of how it's referred to, because I don't have a stage name. I don't use a stage
Hmm.
name. There's no stage makeup. There's no stage show. It's all very much just my personality. But that voice, the my singing voice, definitely is referred to around the house between my wife and I. It's like it's the pretty voice, where
Hmm.
it's very much a persona, and it puts me in a space where, like I said, it's all very much me. There's no like character happening there, but there is a, it's almost like a mask that gets put on and is able
Yeah.
to do things that I'm otherwise not able to do, like just comfort wise. Like, singing is a very vulnerable kind of thing anyways, where, especially not coming from it, where, you don't want to look or sound dumb or do, it's a vulnerable kind of thing.
Hmm.
So having that kind of persona definitely makes it a little easier to be like, well, it's not Nate doing this. It's other Nate.
Right,
So
right. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I completely get that. I'm actually like been a singer in a couple of, you know, like high school bands and like in college and stuff like that. And like that was my thing. And even then I still like totally vibe with what you're saying, because like even if you are the front man of a band and that's all you do is you play, you know, you sing or whatever, it helps a lot if you're like, okay, this is other, you know, this is
yeah,
other person. You put that mask on and you're going to work, and like it's a totally different like thing, lets you be more flamboyant, be more active, and you know, your performances, whether that's again on stage or in, you know, in your case on the album, like it feels like you put a lot of, maybe I don't know if it's intentional or not, but there's like a drama to your singing. I'm thinking specifically about, there is this scream you did in one of the songs. I can't remember which one it is right now off the top of my head, but like it fit so perfectly in like the melody of the song, in the emotional moment of it. And I just thought that was really cool. Like, oh, this is a really cool way of like leaning into that vocal performance. So,
yeah, yes, there's a lot of that is definitely very intentional. So yeah, I appreciate it, man.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Um,
Yeah, being a frontman, it's this is a new role for me, so it's very different. Like I'm a very quiet person in general, very kind of just introverted. So for an introvert to assume a man role is, it's been different, but it's fun. I'm enjoying it, and it's breaking out of my shell a little bit. So
Well, that's cool. That's cool. So, you know, talking a little bit, we talked a little bit about the history of the project, and like we've delved into a little bit about your singing style and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about like songwriting itself, because I know we touched a little bit on that. You mentioned, you know, you were going through the process with your friend, and that, you know, he came over and hit record for, you know, that first song and everything. How does songwriting look for Pretty with the Lights Out? Like, how does that work with you? Do you start with music first? Do you start with a story idea? What's that look like?
it is varied and it's kind of evolved as I've gone on. The one thing that has not changed is I come up with the song title before anything happens. So I know that kind of, I need that focus because I'm also not, I mean, obviously I am a lyric writer because I've now written lyrics, but that's not where I've come from. So I didn't really know how that was going to go. So I need the constraint of knowing, like, okay, this is what this song is going to be. So I come up with these song names, and then it's like, okay, I now have a box that whatever happens, it has to fit inside this box. So that's a good kind of framework for me. And then yeah, just kind of start going. Music the vibe of the song, like the name of it kind of dictates what I'm going to do musically. That generally comes first. I think Zeke is the only song where I wrote the lyrics first. That was the first time that I had tried that, and Zeke is the most recent song that I've written.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the lyrics for that one first, and that was the first time I did that, and that ended up being one of my favorite songs that I've recorded. So I think it's probably going to be a process that I try again. We'll see. But
Okay,
yeah,
well
I
that's
don't know.
cool.
I'm fairly loose with it. Like I said, the only thing that is a constant is song title comes first, and that tells me where I'm going with it. So
For sure, for sure. Well, and that's a good like focal point to fixate on when you're thinking about all those other elements, like aesthetically, like if you have an idea in your mind of what the song is going to be about, it can already help you like visualize, okay, well, this might be a kind of a cool riff idea to kind of get this kind of idea going, or this might be a cool melody or whatever else. So I totally get that. I think that's awesome. And it's cool that like you're experimenting and evolving, that you went with lyrics on the Zeke song, and like you said, you're gonna try and like chase that direction maybe a little bit more as well. So that's awesome.
yeah, I do. Doing the song title first has been kind of funny, especially in the early days of it, where I would announce like, okay, this song is coming, and I've put release dates on stuff before I've even written a bit of the lyrics, and Adam's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're a psycho. You can't do this. I'm like, it's fine. A, nobody cares. B, if it doesn't come out, it doesn't come out. But so the constraints work well for me. So yeah, I did that with a couple of songs where it's like, I have not even figured out how I'm going to write the lyrics for this yet. Friday Night is a good example of that one, where that one I struggled with for a long time. Rewrote it again, scrapped it all, rewrote it again. And I had a date on it and a song title on it that I had pushed on Instagram, like, "Hey, this song is coming." And Adam's like, "You fucking nuts! You can't do this." Like, whatever. No one cares.
It'll be fine.
but yeah, so at the time I had like, there was 100 followers back then, and
Mm-hmm.
only 2 of them had listened to any of the music. So I don't care. It didn't matter. But yeah, now it's getting a little bit harder to pull that off, like now that there's more eyes on what I'm doing. So
For sure, for sure.
probably won't pull that move again. But
That's yeah. I could see that, putting a little extra pressure now.
yeah, there's people looking. So I didn't have that before.
So, so thinking about like your songwriting, sorry, I just that image is awesome just in my head of you being like, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. And a lot of the Pretty with the Lights Out guitar stuff is a little bit heavier. And that's where it's like, well, yeah, I call it horror punk, but really it's very kind of metal infused from the voice to the guitar playing. There's a lot of metal elements there for sure that I don't know. I make what I make, and whatever comes out is what happens. I don't try to stick to any specific formula of like, well, now I need a doo-wop kind of song. If one happens, it happens, but I'm not forcing anything. Also, here's what's funny is where people are like, you're in a horror punk band and you just said that? Where I don't like modern horror movies. The new Evil Dead was a great, because I love Evil Dead, love Army of Darkness. And then new Evil Dead came out. It's like, this looks terrible. Like, I have zero interest in watching this. Like, no Ash, no Evil Dead. So now, unless his chin walks through that door of that apartment, I don't care. I don't want to watch it.
Where they hide, punch them out from deep inside the door.
Earlier we talked a little bit about song titles and how they come first a lot of the time in your writing. Um, so how do you go from song title? I know, and then you said you like start with the music a lot of the time or whatever. But how do you get to the lyrics from the song title? Like I know you said you draft it and you come back to it and you draft it and you draft. How do you know when you have the lyrics that you want to settle on for this
Hmm.
project?
That's a good question. I don't know. There's definitely lyric writing has definitely been the biggest challenge for me of the entire thing. Which luckily, from what I'm heard from people, what I'm coming up with is good. So that's a good. But that's definitely been the biggest cast of like doubt on my end of like, is this good enough? No, this sounds cheesy. This sounds dumb. I can't rhyme that with that. Too many people have done that. So that lyrics definitely, and it's speeding up as I'm getting more confident with it. It's becoming kind of easier to do. Can't say I have any particular process for that because it's been a real struggle to like go in and like pull this stuff out. Zeke definitely came, like I said, that one came before the music, funny enough, and that was the easiest one. So I
Hmm.
I, I don't know, maybe that was just because of time of me doing like, okay, I've done this enough that it's kind of starting to become just a little bit more second nature for me, or I don't know, maybe I was just on a good one that day. But I wrote it, but it's like some of these lyrics take me weeks to finish. That one I did in an afternoon, and then I sat on them for a really long time. Actually, I'd written those lyrics quite a while ago, uh, before I recorded it, and I wrote them as a draft. It was like, whatever, those are shit. And then I came back to it months later. It's like, all right, it's time to record Zeke. Let's start this horrid process of me scrapping every lyric I've ever written. And I looked at him again. It's like, oh, actually, I really like these. And it's why am I just go with it? If this was your first instinct, just go with it. And
Hmm.
that's how that one just ended up. So, and like I said, that's become my favorite one. So,
Oh, okay. That was actually going to be my next question. I know a lot of musicians like all their songs are their babies, but like you're like, no, Zeke's my favorite. That's
see, well, see, I think it's definitely always been the your most recent one is your favorite. That's how it
yeah.
tends to turn out. So, Uh, but yeah, Zeke, like I said, was because Zeke started with the theme song for the TV show Salute Your Shorts. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, this is in C major, so we're gonna just start here. I had that instant constraint of, okay, we're just locking into C major, and then it was an instant like, okay, well, we're gonna do. I wanted a little bit of a darker tone, so we're gonna go to that relative minor, and then on top of that, I want this lead. This lead is okay. We're gonna be in the Mixolydian, where I don't even remember where I was at, but it's very layered in these
Hmm.
different modes off of that C major. Um, so musically, it definitely is my favorite, just because it was a lot of fun to layer that kind of stuff on, which was new. Not really new for me, but to that degree, it's like, okay, there's a lot happening musically in this one that I really like, and it all had to be constrained to because of this theme song. And then at the end of the song, it brings it back to that theme song where I bring
Hmm.
the melody in from the lyrics of the original to the guitar solo. And that's I think that's why that one's my favorite, because I had the most fun on it, musically to do. But yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I could see that completely. Like it's what do they call that? Modal interchange where you kind of like flow through those different,
Yeah,
valleys.
that's very much what's going on in that song. So
Yeah, yeah. It always fun to kind of like go through and explore that stuff, especially like you don't get a chance to hear it. And I know, like you were saying, like metal's kind of infused in your playing and stuff, but like there's also like you were saying, a strong punk element to this music and to your playing. And you don't get to hear like that kind of really cool modal playing in the style of punk that often. So when you do, it's like, oh, that's just
yeah, that's how a lot of my I think it's I love the kind of contrast of these kind of weird darker lyrics on top of
Mhm.
like a major key. So a lot of my stuff tends to have that kind of poppier, happy, kind of upbeat sound
Mhm.
where in the major, and then it's got kind of the darker lyrics on. I like that contrast, and that's something that Wednesday 13 is phenomenal at. His newer stuff, he
Mhm.
doesn't really do that, but the old, like, his like More Than Words and stuff is a great example of that, where it's just all in that major. And then honestly, it's what I do is fairly predictable, where it's like, okay, I'll do my major verse or whatever. My bridges and interludes always tend to go to like a Phrygian or something.
Mhm.
And just
But
give
that's
it a
still
bit.
like that's really unique within the context of
Yeah, for
like
sure.
the overall scene. So it might feel predictable to you, but like that is a breath of fresh air. Even if every song on the album, on your EP did that, like it's still a breath of fresh air compared to like a lot of the playing that goes on. And I'm not, shitting on those bands. Like honestly, a lot of bands in the scene, they work really, really hard with the skills and everything they have. And
Yeah.
like I think what a lot of the bands that don't have that knowledge do is really cool and has like a grit and a charm to it that you don't get with like a lot of theory knowledge. But I also feel like you miss out on a lot of really cool opportunities to
Yeah.
do like melodic and harmonically interesting things.
Yes, they're definitely musically, it gets kind of on the melodic side for me. So yeah, I'm glad you appreciate it and recognize it, because yeah, like most people just hear it, it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun to talk to somebody about it, of like where they understand what's happening, and like, oh, okay, yeah, I know exactly why you did that, or you can hear those changes. So yeah, that's cool, man. I appreciate it.
Let's talk a little bit about inspiration, both musically and otherwise. Let's start with musically, though. What would you say is your biggest like inspiration when it comes to music? Like, who were the bands you looked up to? What in Pretty with the Lights Out are you trying to like kind of go for and create, and how are you tying those elements together?
And Guar, certainly. Guar's been my first love. Like they've been my favorite band since I was 12 years old. Um, so definitely musically, a lot of that. Like Balsac, The Jaws of Death has been one of my heroes since you know I was 12 years old, fell asleep on the couch, woke up to Beavis and Butthead playing at like 2 a.m. and there was Guar, and my life was never the same again. Saw that bear trap face. It's like, oh, I'm in love. Um, so, so yeah, musically, definitely a lot of Guar, especially like the '90s Guar kind of stuff, because they definitely rode that line of like punk and metal.
Oh yeah.
They've definitely certainly more metal since 2000, yeah, about 2000, with Violence Has Arrived. But yeah, their '90s stuff is very kind of like, it tiptoes between a punk and metal kind of thing. So that
Hmm.
certainly is musically where I kind of live, for sure. Like a lot of the on the guitar stuff, a lot of the split octave kind of things, and
Hmm.
um, Misfits was right in that same time. I bought my first Guar CD at the same time I bought American Psycho. It
Okay.
was the same exact day. I think they came out. I think Carnival Chaos from Guar, and then American Psycho came out within like a week of each other. So I bought those the same exact day, and that was what really kind of took me down that path. And then, like I said, mostly from there, I was a lot of metal when I was a kid. Megadeth, Pantera, and that kind of stuff. I didn't like to lock myself into that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I got a lot of influence from like The Offspring, one of my absolute favorites.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant songwriters.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And there's a lot of kind of Offspring influence in what is going on in Pretty, especially in like Do Not Resuscitate. That's super kind of my attempt at like an Offspringy kind of like, we're gonna write some kind of Gone Away type song, and that's as close as I can apparently get. But that's um, so yeah, that's musically, it kind of varies. And then so there's a lot of uh, varied other influences in there, from like stuff that just makes zero sense, from Joe Jackson, like in '70s '80s kind of Joe Jackson, to Fleetwood Mac. Love Lindsey Buckingham, love Jeff Beck. So a lot of those kind of solos are kind of like, I can't do anywhere close to what Jeff Beck can do, but I like the emotion that he was able to put onto a guitar solo. The Do Not Resuscitate guitar solo is very kind of like, one of my favorite Jeff Beck songs was "So We Ended as Lovers," and it just kind of had this very just droning kind of guitar solo, and that kind of inspired that one a little bit. So
Well, that's really cool. 'Cause it's like one of those things where like some people come into whatever scene they're in and like they just ingrain themselves in the culture that's already there and those are all their influences. And that can get really stale really quick, especially if you have 1,000 clones of the same thing. But when you're
yeah,
pulling
well,
influences,
yeah, that's you just hit on a very good point, which is it's funny because we've established like okay, Pretty doesn't really sound like other
yeah.
stuff, and what's funny about it is a lot of people in the current horror punk scene, they'll obviously list Misfits as
Mhm.
an influence. What's the other one? You name it? It's AFI.
Yeah.
I've not listened to any AFI. I was not an AFI. I didn't dislike AFI, but I'd never heard it. I didn't listen to any of it. Was not on my radar because it mostly was up more in the metal kind of heavier
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it wasn't until even very, very recently where it's like, okay, and enough people that I know love AFI. Let's give it a spin. And it just was, it wasn't for me. Um,
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
so I think that's like a lot of people, a lot of bands, especially in like I said, the current genre of horror punk, they list AFI as a primary influence, and I definitely don't have that. So that's probably why there's the separation of what I'm doing versus what other people are doing.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Like kind of talking on that though, you mentioned the Misfits, and I've noticed a pattern when talking about the Misfits that I find really interesting and kind of funny at the same time. A lot of the bands that I have interviewed really like the Graves era Misfits, but they always start with a preface. They're like, I know a lot of people have, negative feelings, blah, blah, blah. And it's like just like what you like.
No,
Like
yeah,
you don't
100%.
like
Yeah.
he might I'm not saying he is one way or the other. I'm not putting my foot in that, my mouth on that one way or the other. However you feel about Michael Graves as a person, his music has
Oh,
clearly influenced a ton of people in this generation of horror punk. And yeah, I mean, it was through the Misfits, but like there's a clear difference between Danzig Misfits and Michael Graves Misfits. And
for
I
sure.
treat them like two different bands. I love them both
Hmm.
personally, but like there's a whole different feel to both of those projects. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's definitely the Graves Misfits. When I say from the inspiration side, that's
mhm.
what you can just tell in the guitar playing
Yeah, yeah.
that era of Doyle kind of stuff is what influenced my guitar stuff there. So yeah, man, I love Graves Misfits. That's where I started with the Misfits, and that was why I bought that. I've been
Mhm.
I don't like I said 13 years old when American Psycho came out, and
Mhm.
went to Media Play, which was like a Best Buy kind of store back in the day, and I knew I was going for Guar. That was the purpose of the trip, and then right there was American Psycho. It's like whoa! I saw that
Yeah.
cover, and it was just an instant like, yeah, I'm grabbing this too. I don't know what's on it. I have no idea, but that artwork just instantly sold me. Um,
Mhm. For sure, for
so
sure.
and that's I miss those days of like the being able to like see artwork and just be like, I don't even
Yeah.
know what this is going to sound like, but that's fucking cool. I want it and pick it up. So that's how I ended up with Misfit stuff. So that was where Misfit started for me, was the Grave stuff.
Okay.
I
Okay.
do love the Danzig stuff, but Danzig is it's like you said, it's a whole nother band. It's a
Yeah.
completely different. And I do like I was in the Fiend Club back in 97, 98. No, that would have been 98, 99, I guess. And then they released Evil Live 2, which
Mhm.
was the only way you could get it was through the Fiend Club. And I bought it, and I loved hearing Graves do the Danzig stuff. Like
Mhm.
I really liked his take on like the American Psycho track and some of the other stuff. So it's like, this is cool. Like it's still very different, but yeah. So I love Danzig era. I love Graves era.
With all that said and all that in mind, it's been a pleasure talking to you. So before we get going though, I was wondering, are there any bands? I know you played, the first show with the band proper, recently, but are there any bands in the scene either that you've played with or that you feel deserve a like a shout out that fans at home might want to go check out, later on?
We mostly really listed most of them in this conversation, but yeah, like Won't Stay Dead and Pumpkin Guts. They were when I did the debut Pretty with the Lights Out show for stage. What I wanted to build the brand before I hit the stage. So I had a whole EP recorded and released, and there's a fan club that exists for Pretty with the Lights Out that all existed before I even hit the stage because I wanted all of that in place. So when I was finally time to do that, I specifically asked. Pumpkin Guts and Won't Stay Dead were my number one choices, and they both thankfully said yes, because I like what both of them are doing. Let's see, Casket Culture. I think that singer is probably one of the best singers in rock music. Honestly, like his voice is crazy. They should be a radio hit on it. Like they're like Hey Lucifer is phenomenal. That should be played on any kind of just big city radio. It's such a great song. Panic Broadcasting. Sean, his voice is phenomenal. I'm excited to see what he's got going on. Dark Ride, I love. Silent Horror, another band that they're absolutely killing it. Yeah, those are kind of the Creep Show. They're one of my favorites as well. I think they're about ready to hang it up. They've been around for a while, but yeah, we've been pals with them for a while. Yeah, those are my other than the obvious ones. You got your Blitzkid and Nimvind, and those are all obviously classics and favorites. But yeah, as far as what I'm listening to these days of like what people may not know, that's the list of who I'm into and really excited to hear things from.
Are there any social media shout outs or any platforms you'd like people to go to purchase your music?
Yeah, prettywiththelightsout.com is the main store. That's where the CD and any kind of merch is. All the audio music is on Bandcamp and the Apple Music, anywhere you would buy music like digitally. But yeah, any kind of physical stuff, shirts, merch, fan club, CD, prettywiththelightsout.com. And then we're on Instagram, of course, Pretty with the Lights Out, Pretty with the Lights Out on Facebook, and what used to be Twitter is PWTLO music because I can't fit Pretty with the Lights Out in that full. But honestly, we don't use that at all. So, yeah, Facebook and Instagram are the main ones, and then the main website for sure. So,
all right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being here, and
yeah, thanks.
I had a blast. So hopefully we'll have you on again sometime. But yeah, you have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the episode. I really appreciate it. My name is William Hamilton, and I've been the host of this episode of Heartfelt Horror here on the Heartfelt Horror Media Network channel. We really do appreciate you guys staying to the end of these videos. While you're here, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video, subscribing to our channel, leaving a comment down below, these little things really do go a long way to helping us, get our name out there and get our show out into the algorithm so other people like you can find us. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, we'd really appreciate it. Also, if you're looking for other ways to support the show, we have a Patreon. The link for that is going to be down here. You can copy that into the search bar and you'll find our page. Our Patreon is for $5 a month. For $5 a month, you're going to be able to help us buy all sorts of new equipment. You're going to help us be able to save up for different kind of developmental processes that we're going to be using to bring you new and different kinds of content besides these interviews. So if that sounds like something that interests you, please consider it. Again, it'll be $5 and the link to the Patreon is going to be down there below. So thank you so much for your time and have a nice day. Bye. Friday nights, all right, for Friday, boom. Go. Here comes our final girl and she's ready to kick some ass. We're sitting in the backseat, baby. Tonight we're gonna fog up all the glass and shutter from the hallway, bloody and exhausted. She starts flying eyes.
She's still got fight inside and won't give up this Friday night. No!